Today, we uncover the shocking truth about the tea sold in UK supermarkets. That comforting brew you're sipping right now, the one you've trusted for decades, might contain billions of microplastic particles released the moment boiling water hits the bag. It might be contaminated with pesticide residues that other countries banned years ago. And what you think are whole tea leaves could actually be dust and floor sweepings, the broken fragments left over after real tea gets sold to premium buyers. For most of us, tea isn't just a drink, it's a ritual, a daily habit woven into British life for generations, a moment of comfort, clarity, or calm. But slowly, quietly, without most people ever realizing, that ritual has been taken away from us. What was once a simple, wholesome brew has become an industrial product, engineered, processed, and packaged in ways our grandparents would never recognize. And the worst part is, many of us still assume we're drinking the same teas Britain grew up on. But it wasn't always like this. In the 1960s, people bought loose tea and put it in a teapot, whole leaves brewed slowly, strained by hand, and enjoyed the way nature intended. No bleached paper, no heat-sealed polymers, no bags packed with ultra-fine dust designed to brew in 20 seconds. Just leaves, water, time, and a flavor that developed naturally. Compare that to today. Most supermarket tea bags are a blend of microscopic particles, leftovers from multiple countries, and materials that interact with boiling water long before the tea itself does. The companies know something they don't want you to realize. If you understood how simple tea used to be and how easy it still is to brew it the old way, you might never go back to their packaged blends again. So they work hard to keep the modern system in place. Fast brew dust, leftovers sourced from multiple countries, over-processed leaves, bags treated to look cleaner and whiter than the tea inside. Convenience over quality, presentation over tradition. Appearance over health. So we've gone through the major brands currently sold in UK supermarkets, and we'll expose the 9 tea products you need to avoid. Then I'll tell you the handful which are actually still worth buying. Now, before we get into it, if this investigation helps you see what's really in your cupboard, hit that like button, and more importantly, smash that hype button. Every hype you give pushes this to more people, and the more people who see this, the more pressure these companies feel to actually change their standards. We're not just complaining, we're building awareness that forces accountability. When enough of us stop buying the rubbish and start demanding better, they have to listen. That hype button isn't just for the algorithm, it's your vote for higher standards. So click it, help spread this, and let's make them earn our trust back. And let's get into it. Number 9. Tetley, one of the biggest names in British tea, so embedded in our routines most people don't question it. Tetley markets itself as familiar, reliable, down-to-earth. But look closer at how they build their bags. Tetley publicly states their tea bags aren't fully plastic-free, they're 99% biodegradable, but that final 1% comes from the heat seal polymer. Small amount, but Tetley produces tens of millions daily. Multiplied across the country's tea habit, it's a stream of microparticles entering hot water again and again. For decades, tea bags were assumed to be just paper. Tetley confirms there's still plastic keeping seams intact. Inside the bag, Tetley uses blends built for speed, small particles, not whole leaves. They brew quickly, create predictable taste, efficient, reliable, but when leaves are processed into tiny fragments, the depth disappears. Then there's what testing found. In 2014, CBC Marketplace sent tea brands to an accredited lab. Tetley's results made headlines: 22 different pesticides in one tea bag, 22 chemicals designed to eliminate insects, fungi, and weeds, all steeping in your cup. Here's what no one talks about. Regulators test pesticides one at a time, set safe limits for each individually. But no one studies what happens when 22 combine inside your body. That's a chemistry experiment with no safety data. One chemical found was monocrotophos, banned in the United States for decades, yet it showed up in British grocery stores. Another was DDT, banned in 1972, still detectable 50 years later. Tetley's defense: their tea complies with regulations. Each chemical individually falls below legal limits. But 22 chemicals at 90% of the limit each adds up fast. Regulators don't do that maths. The regulations weren't designed for cocktails. The tea industry exploits the gap. Research from the University of East Anglia found Tetley released the most microplastic particles of any brand tested, the most. Investigations into certain plantations have raised concerns about serious health incidents among workers exposed to agricultural chemicals without protection. Number 8. PG Tips. A household name, a staple in millions of kitchens across the country. One of the brands many people picture when they think of a proper British brew. For decades, PG Tips built its reputation on strength, familiarity, and reliability. But in recent years, shoppers across the UK have noticed something different about their daily cup. And it starts with the bag itself. PG Tips made headlines when it switched to 100% plant-based bags, replacing traditional polypropylene with a corn-derived material called PLA. On the surface, this sounds like progress. Greener packaging, better sustainability, a step forward. But what most shoppers don't realize is that PLA doesn't break down in normal home compost. It needs industrial-level heat for proper breakdown. Meaning that for the average household, the new bags behave almost exactly the same as the old ones. They don't disappear, they just look better on paper. And for many loyal drinkers, the change hasn't just been about the bag. The taste itself shifted. Reviews began pouring in with the same message. PG Tips didn't brew the way it used to. Cups felt weaker, flatter, or oddly inconsistent, even when using the same amount of sugar, milk, and steep time as always. Some people reported needing 2 bags instead of 1. Others said the color seemed to develop quickly, but the flavor lagged behind. Strong on the surface, but thin underneath. This pattern makes sense when you understand how the tea inside the bag is built. PG Tips relies heavily on extremely fine tea particles, full of fannings and dust, the cheapest leftovers. These tiny fragments brew fast, producing a strong color in seconds. But that speed comes at the cost of depth. Whole leaves release flavor slowly. Dust releases everything at once. It gives a punch, but it doesn't give complexity. For a long time, this worked because the pyramid bag allowed more movement. But as the bag design changed, and as blends continued adjusting for uniformity and volume, something in the cup changed with it. What made PG Tips iconic wasn't the convenience, it was the flavor people grew up with, the comforting, recognizable brew that felt the same whether you drank it at home, at work, or in a roadside cafe. And here's what makes it worse. It took 200,000 people signing a petition to force PG Tips to even attempt changing their bags in the first place. 200,000. That's not a few angry customers. That's a movement. And even after all that pressure, even after spending £12 million on marketing to reassure customers, PG Tips still lost £15 million in sales. People noticed. They didn't just complain, they stopped buying. The question is, have you? Number 7. Yorkshire Tea. The brand people defend with their whole personality. It's an identity. People swear by it, travel with it, argue about it online. For many, it's the gold standard. And that's why this stings. Behind the cozy marketing and rolling hills on the box, Yorkshire Tea has more in common with big industrial brands than loyal drinkers realize. Yorkshire Tea has been under pressure for years to ditch plastic. While they've shifted toward plant-based materials, significant numbers of bags still use polypropylene sealing. Pour boiling water on older batches and you're releasing microscopic particles you never intended to drink. Given Yorkshire's popularity, that's millions of cups daily. Yorkshire Tea's reputation rests on craftsmanship, careful sourcing, best leaves. But their supply chain draws from the same enormous international plantations supplying almost every mass-market tea. Their blends come from Kenya, Assam, Sri Lanka. Investigations have highlighted concerns around working conditions, including low pay, overwork, and exposure to dangerous chemicals. In 2020, reports emerged about a Malawian supplier linked to Yorkshire facing human rights allegations. Yorkshire insists they audit suppliers. But sourcing on a scale supplying millions of boxes makes oversight complicated. People describe Yorkshire as strong, but strength doesn't always mean quality. It can mean more small particles, more fannings, a darker cup designed to impress quickly, engineered reliability, not heritage craftsmanship. And the branding leans on Yorkshire tradition, but the tea isn't grown in Yorkshire, it's blended there. The leaves come from the same global commodity system driving every supermarket tea. Yorkshire themselves admitted their outer wrapper contains plastic. Not the bag, the wrapper. Yorkshire feels familiar, comforting, nostalgic. But today, it's industrial blending, long-distance sourcing, and plastic-sealed bags. Not the romantic story on the box. Judging by disappointed customers, more people are noticing. Number 6. Twinings, a name so old and established that most of us treat it as a mark of certainty. The brand has a royal warrant, a storefront on the Strand dating back to the 1700s, and packaging that feels traditional, elegant, and trustworthy. But behind that heritage image sits something most shoppers never think about. The bright, pure white tea bags themselves. They don't look that way naturally. Twinings uses an oxygen bleaching process on its tea bag paper to achieve that spotless, uniform look. It isn't chlorine-based, but it's still a deliberate whitening treatment done purely for presentation, because unbleached tea paper looks darker, more textured, and less clean. And in today's supermarket aisle, appearance sells faster than authenticity. But the question we all need to be asking is which one of us asked for washing powder white tea bags in the first place? Most of us would much prefer to see the real color without anything from the bleaching process finding its way into our cup. Some would say it's like they make all the decisions without a care in the world for what we end up putting into our bodies. According to them, the crisp white bag gives the impression of a high-purity product. But they can't hide the fact that what's inside it tells a completely different story. Twinings Everyday, the blend most people buy without thinking twice, isn't made from whole leaves like the company's historical image might suggest. It's made from very fine fannings, tiny fragments of leaf created during the tea leaf sorting process. These pieces brew quickly and provide color fast, but they also lose the complexity, aroma, and subtlety that made British tea what it once was. Fannings are efficient for mass production, not for flavor. They create a cup that's consistent and strong, but not necessarily rich or nuanced, because when Twinings first began, their tea wasn't sold in paper bags at all. It was sold loose, whole leaves stored in metal canisters, weighed out by hand in tea shops. Customers could see the leaves, smell them, judge their quality with their own eyes. Brewing tea meant warming a pot, adding whole leaves and letting them steep slowly before straining. There were no bleached papers, no stitched bags, no heat-sealed fibers, and no fast-brew particles engineered for convenience. Tea was a slow ritual, and that ritual was inseparable from quality. Today, the story is different. The heritage remains on the box, but the product has evolved into a fast-brew, supermarket-friendly version of what tea used to be. And then there's what independent testing has revealed. In 2019, Twinings was named in a class action lawsuit in the United States. The claim? Their tea, marketed as pure and natural, contained pesticide residues, including glyphosate, the active ingredient in Roundup weed killer. The lawsuit argued that consumers paying premium prices for Twinings expected purity, not traces of herbicides. Twinings didn't admit wrongdoing, but the case raised questions about what pure actually means when it's printed on premium packaging. French testing by 60 million consumers, a major consumer advocacy group, also found pesticide residues in Twinings products. And it's not just about what's in the tea, it's about where it comes from. Twinings has quietly shifted production over the years. The brand that built its reputation on British heritage has moved significant portions of its manufacturing to Poland and China, factories that once operated in the UK, providing jobs and maintaining oversight, have closed. The tea you're buying today isn't necessarily made where the branding implies it is. You're paying for 300 years of history. What you're getting is the same contaminated, industrially processed product as the budget brands, just with better marketing and a royal warrant nobody checked. Heritage on the box. Industrial shortcuts inside. Number 5. Typhoo, a case study in corporate chaos. Typhoo's been around since 1903, a brand older generations grew up with. But what's happened over the last decade is a warning about brands becoming financial assets shuffled between owners who don't care. Typhoo changed hands 6 times in recent years. Each time new owners promised revitalization. Each time focus shifted from tea to cost-cutting. The most recent owner, Supreme, primarily known for vape products. The company making your tea makes disposable e-cigarettes. In 2024, Typhoo entered administration. Administration is the step before collapse. This isn't a brand investing in quality, this is a brand barely surviving. While Typhoo's been circling the drain, customers reported bizarre quality issues, cups tasting metallic, bitter, or like fish. Yes, fish. When tea tastes like fish, something's catastrophically wrong. That's the problem with brands in freefall. Quality control goes first. When you're cutting costs to stay afloat, sourcing from cheapest suppliers, oversight becomes a luxury you can't afford. The product suffers. Typhoo used to mean something. Today it's a cautionary tale about corporations treating food as financial instruments. The tea isn't made by people who care, it's made by people extracting last value from a dying brand. Judging by administration, that disappearance isn't far off. Number 4. Sainsbury's Red Label. This one doesn't have dramatic scandal. It's here for a simpler reason. It's mediocre. Aggressively mediocre. Which conducted blind taste tests. Sainsbury's Red Label scored 71%. Not terrible, not good, firmly average. It beat a few, lost to a few, landed exactly where forgettable products live. Mediocre tea isn't what Britain deserves. We built an identity around tea. Now a major supermarket sells us a product that tastes like they couldn't be bothered. There's nothing remarkable about it, not strong, not smooth, not anything. The tea equivalent of beige wallpaper. Functional, uninspiring, instantly forgettable, mediocrity in tea is a choice. It's not hard to source decent leaves or blend something with character, but it's cheaper to phone it in, create something just acceptable enough people keep buying out of habit. That's what Sainsbury's did. If you're drinking Red Label, you're not drinking it because it's good, you're drinking it because it's there. That's not a reason to keep buying. Number 3. Tesco Original. Here's the truth. It's cheap, tastes cheap, and still disappoints. In the which test, Tesco Original scored 67%, tied for last place. Dead last, the brand it tied with, Twinings, costing 3 times as much. Let that sink in. Twinings, with heritage, royal warrant, premium pricing, performed exactly as poorly as Tesco's budget offering. At least with Tesco, you're not pretending it's quality. You know what you're getting. The cheapest thing on the shelf tastes like the cheapest thing. There's honesty in that, but cheap doesn't mean it has to be this bad. Other budget brands created drinkable tea without premium prices. Tesco hasn't tried, it exists to fill shelf space and meet a price point. The tea inside is dust. Flavor is flat. Color develops fast because that's what dust does, but there's no depth, no reason for a second cup. Tesco is the biggest UK supermarket. They have resources, infrastructure, buying power to source better without raising prices significantly. They don't because they don't have to. People buy Tesco Original because it's cheap and there. As long as that continues, there's no incentive to improve. You're funding a system prioritizing cost over quality at every decision. You're paying for it every morning. Number 2. Lipton Yellow Label. The yellow box. The world's best-selling tea, more trusted than any other brand on earth, at least in terms of sheer volume. That trust is built on ubiquity, not quality. Lipton is everywhere. In every supermarket, every petrol station, every hotel room from London to Lagos. And that's exactly the problem. When you're selling more tea than anyone else on the planet, quality isn't the priority. Scale is, cost is. Your health isn't part of the shareholder calculation. In 2012, Greenpeace tested Lipton tea from shelves around the world. Every single sample came back contaminated. Not most, not a significant portion. Every single one, between 3 and 17 different pesticides per bag, 17 chemicals in 1 cup of tea, some banned in the European Union, some banned in China, the very country where Lipton grows some of its leaves. Banned poisons in the world's most popular tea, ending up in the cups of pensioners, in the lunchboxes of schoolchildren, on the kitchen benches of people who had no idea. Lipton is owned by Unilever, a corporation worth over £100 billion. They have the resources to source clean tea, to test every batch, to protect every customer. They don't, because clean tea costs more than contaminated tea, and your health is not part of the equation when quarterly earnings are on the line. £3 a box. That's what Unilever decided your family is worth. And then there's the plastic. Those pyramid bags that look so modern and premium, they're petroleum-based mesh. Pour boiling water through petroleum-based mesh, and you're not just brewing tea, you're brewing a mixture of tea and microplastic particles that have no business entering a human body. McGill University measured it. One plastic tea bag, 1 cup, 11.6 billion microplastic particles released into the water, 11 billion from one bag, plus 3.1 billion nanoplastics particles so small they slip through cell walls. Scientists have found them in human blood, in lung tissue, in the placentas of unborn babies. Every cup you drink, they accumulate. They don't leave. If you've been drinking Lipton for years, those particles are inside you right now. But at least the tea inside is quality, right? Wrong. Lipton doesn't use tea leaves. They use tea dust. The broken scraps and factory sweepings left over after real tea get sold to premium brands. Dust has no flavor, so they pump it full of natural flavors, lab-made chemicals engineered to taste like tea. That lemon flavor, synthesized. That berry blend, never touched fruit. You're drinking a chemistry experiment disguised as comfort. Unilever's response when Greenpeace exposed them will improve our practices. That was 2012, 14 years ago. Independent tests still find pesticide residues in Lipton today. The press release worked. Your tea didn't change. Before we finish, let's talk about what you should actually drink. So here are brands actually doing it properly. First, Clipper. If you're looking for tea bags that don't compromise, this is it. Fairtrade certified, fully organic, B Corp certified. Their bags are unbleached plant fibers with no plastic, no polypropylene, no synthetic sealants, just paper that breaks down properly. The tea is whole leaf, not dust. You can taste the difference. Brew Clipper next to PG Tips, and the contrast is immediate. Clipper develops flavor slowly because there's actually something worth tasting. It costs a bit more. You're not paying for marketing. You're paying for tea that won't poison you. Once people switch to Clipper, they don't go back. Second, Hampstead Tea. For people wanting highest ethical standards, Hampstead holds #1 rating from Ethical Consumer, considering everything from worker treatment to environmental impact to supply chain transparency. Certified organic, fully traceable sourcing, published testing results. If a brand has nothing to hide, they show evidence. Hampstead does. Harder to find, mostly health food shops or online, but if you can get it, it's worth it. This is tea when the company cares about every step. Third, Pukka. This comes with a caveat. Pukka started as independent organic brand built on purity. University of East Anglia research found Pukka was the only brand releasing 0 microplastics when brewed. 0. Their bags are genuinely plastic-free, organic certification legitimate. But in 2022, Pukka was acquired by Unilever, the same corporation behind Lipton. Same Unilever whose Lipton tested positive for 17 pesticides. Certifications are still on packaging. Question is whether a brand built on independence can maintain standards under multinational ownership. Some customers noted changes since acquisition, shifts in flavor, formulation adjustments, reduced transparency. If you're buying Pukka, know the brand isn't the same one that earned its reputation. Packaging still makes every promise, but those promises are backed by a corporation whose track record is exactly opposite of everything Pukka represents. Fourth, Asda Everyday. Here's where it gets interesting. Which taste tests had Asda Everyday score 72%, beat Twinings at 67, beat PG Tips at 71, beat Yorkshire at 70. The cheapest option outperformed every premium brand. You've been paying double, triple for heritage and royal warrants, and budget own brand makes better tea. Asda proves expensive doesn't mean better. You're paying for marketing. But Asda has a problem. Reviews consistently report bags split and burst. Not occasionally, regularly. Half the box goes in the bin. Takes 3 or 4 attempts for one drinkable cup without the bag disintegrating and filling the mug with loose particles. While tea scored highest, if bags don't hold together, you're drinking more dust than intended. Asda's a paradox. Proof premium prices don't guarantee quality, but also proof even winners have serious issues. Finally, the ultimate option, loose leaf tea. How your grandparents made tea, still the best way. A teapot, strainer, whole leaves. No bags, no plastic, no dust, no bleaching, No polymer seals, no microplastics. Just tea the way it was meant to be. People assume loose leaf is complicated. It's not. Warm the pot, add a teaspoon per cup, pour boiling water, steep 3 to 5 minutes, strain. That's it. What people did in the 60s before bags became normal, what people in tea-producing countries still do. Loose leaf isn't just cleaner, it's better. Whole leaves release flavor gradually, develop complexity. They don't dump everything in 20 seconds like dust. Tea actually tastes like tea, not lab-engineered approximation. You can buy loose leaf organic from most supermarkets or online. Costs about the same as premium bags, sometimes less, and you're getting superior product without compromises. So there you have it, 9 brands exposed, from PG Tips with its 200,000 signature petition and disappearing flavor to Tetley with 22 pesticides and microplastics. To Yorkshire betraying millions with industrial sourcing, to Twinings charging premium for bleached bags and contaminated dust, to Typhoo collapsing under corporate mismanagement, to Sainsbury's and Tesco offering mediocre tea, to Lipton serving 17 pesticides and 11 billion microplastics to the world's largest customer base. That's what's been in your cupboard. But now you know. Check your pantry right now. If you see these brands, consider what they're actually delivering versus what they claim. Your morning cup should be comfort, not contamination. If this helped you, hit that like button, smash that hype button one more time, and drop a comment telling me which food we should investigate next. We're going to keep pulling back labels, keep exposing shortcuts, and keep demanding better. Until next time, stay sharp, read the labels, and protect your plate.